Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Weekly Sports Side. Micah Murphy here, and you're my partner,
Velarde.
Absolutely, and we want to just get into the depth and the meat and potatoes. What is up with your Oakland A's right now? We were hoping to have an A's Red Sox series, and here I am this past week watching Red Sox Tigers. What happened, man?
And what a series that would have been, honestly.
It would have been great.
And, as soon as they went into Game 4 and they dropped that game up in Detroit, I knew it was over.
I remember you telling me.
It was over there. You don't give a team like the Tigers in Game 5, you have to put them away in 4.
Pitching. I mean, what more can you say? Verlander's a hog.
Yeah.
He's a beast. He put it to the A's like he always does. All the A's fans were hoping it might be one shot in the dark here. We could get one over on. It might be their turn, and sure enough, it just wasn't meant to be.
I mean, how many times can the A's drop out in the first round of the playoffs?
Obviously, quite a bit. I mean, I picked the Tigers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, but going into this series, I just had that feeling that the Tigers is just one team the A's don't want to see in the playoffs. They just don't want to come across the Tigers. Certain teams have that going. I remember the Ravens with the Steelers had that for a while before they overcame that hurdle. It's kind of like that same thing. Certain teams you just don't want to face, and unfortunately the Tigers and the A's are one of them. Verlander pitched a gem. I think he carried a no-hitter through 7, for Christ's sakes. And the A's didn't even try to do anything to bunt, try to get him off his game. It just felt like they didn't give their maximum effort. And the better team won, unfortunately. But here we go, going for Tigers and Red Sox. I predicted the Red Sox to win the World Series. They've gotten a couple gutsy wins against the Tigers the last few days, and I think that we might see the Tigers going against the Cardinals here in the World Series. The Dodgers pulled off another close one against the Cards today to get that series to 3-2, going back to St. Louis. What do you think is going to happen when it gets back to St. Louis? We got Kershaw on the mound for the Dodgers.
I'm going to do the California favorite. If California is not involved in the World Series, I don't care.
I understand, man. I unfortunately don't feel the same sentiment because the Dodgers are the team that I love to hate.
Well, when we were listening to that game today, I remember you saying, we get to go to St. Louis.
Hey, I don't know if that really happened. I don't know if that happened. There's no witnesses and nobody saw me. That you can't prove anything. So, look,
Giants
Dodgers
fans, Micah is secretly an undercover
This is not true.
Dodger fan.
This is not true. Don't believe it for a second. Just like you can't believe anything else that comes out of your mouth. Now, look, the Dodgers have Clayton Kershaw going Game 6 against the Cardinals. They have a great chance to win that game. And then Game 7 could be a toss-up. So we could see a Dodgers surprise moment coming back from 3 games to 1. If they could pull it off, I mean, the Cardinals would hate to see that happen because it's the same thing the Giants did to them last year. Came back from 3 games to 1 to go to the World Series and ended up winning it. So we'll see what happens. I'm hyped up to see what happens when we go back to St. Louis.
Hey, I'm hyped. By the end of the week, we'll have the World Series announced, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, so, last week we saw Marcus Bradley and what I thought was going to be a really good fight.
A little overhyped?
It was a good fight.
It was a good fight.
But it wasn't that action-packed fight that I kind of thought it might become.
Sure.
You had Marquez with those big punches, and you had Bradley winning the fight on volume. I thought Marquez landed the cleaner, effective punches, but Bradley had the volume. You know what was gross about that fight? Just listening to those HBO guys, man. Sometimes you listen to those HBO or Showtimes, and you can tell they have an agenda. And in that fight, they were always, Bradley's just kind of like killing him, right? And they kept talking about Marquez's one-punch knockout power, and I'm like, what are these guys talking about? He did knock out Pacquiao with one punch. So they're talking about that one knockout power punch. Well, let's remember, Marquez and Pacquiao both came up from lighter weights. They were both featherweights.
Sure.
So for them to both come up, it's not the same as punching Bradley, who's a natural, super lightweight. Bradley moved up from 140 pounds and he was 147. Marquez used to fight 122, 126 and has moved up. Same thing with Pacquiao. He started actually at 108, if you believe that or not.
Yeah.
And he caught in a guy who was coming in open against him, and Bradley wasn't doing
a good
that.
punch. Yeah.
But I thought it was a close fight. I thought it really could have gone either way. Not the action-packed fight I was hoping about.
What's next for Bradley at this point? I know when we talked last, you kind of laid out a couple possibilities for him. Coming into if he won this fight, a couple options he might have to move up and who he might fight. What's next on his list? Do you think this earned him a right to really get the fight, to get him back in the ballgame?
They talked about if he wins this fight, and if Pacquiao wins the fight against Brandon Rios, which he's expected to do so in November, then you might see them fight again. Or, Bradley might just take another fight. But
Sure.
that would be the biggest money fight for Bradley.
Absolutely.
He's in a better position to take that fight now than prior to, fighting Marquez. So I think that's where he goes.
Okay. Something I can look forward to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if, it would have been the Bradley Pacquiao fight of years past. But,
Yeah.
Alrighty. What about Niners Raiders, man? I'm ready to just get right into the meat and potatoes of Niners Raiders because I know when we talked last, we were a little concerned about the Niners and them moving forward, but they were getting back on track a little bit, getting healthy. We had a close game against the Cardinals. I didn't see it being that close, but they showed they're a good team and they can travel and they can play and hang with the best of them. And I was happy to see how Kaepernick performed coming off that week kind of performance the week before. He still only went, I believe, 16 for 29 for like 260 yards and a couple touchdowns. But
Vernon Davis.
Looking like his main target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he a receiver or a tight end?
I know. He's a tight end with receivers. Get away from the cop speed.
Yeah.
He's really good. He is really good, and they are developing quite the relationship. And I think that a lot of the time, Anquan Bolden takes like Patrick Peterson, for example. He'll take the heat, get a couple double coverage, and then that frees up Vernon Davis, which is fine by us all day long. As long as Cap's making them good reads, finding the open receiver and making the correct decision, he'll be all right,
Yeah. One thing about Kaepernick is I know it's slowing him down this year. He has a hanging nail on both pinkies' toes. I read that today on Comcast Sports Network that's what's ailing. He's being listed in the injury report often this season. Hangnails, yeah, on his toes. And so I guess that's why, even though last year he had ran for like over 400 yards in 7 games, 200 some yards in the playoffs, this year he has 172 yards rushing
through 6 games.
Yeah. So his numbers are definitely down. But the schedule's favorable to you guys. You guys played Tennessee this week.
Yep.
You guys should be able to pull that out. It's a good defense running the ball. Tennessee might make it closer than I think you might be anticipating.
Possibly if Locker plays.
Especially
if
if Locker
Fitzpatrick, plays. I think we'll be okay. You still have a tough defense, so
you'll win that game.
They'll
win that game. But you know what? You're getting man back in practice this week, and you're getting some healthy bodies back.
Sure.
So when you guys line up against New Orleans at New Orleans, you guys, have gone through this stretch where you guys got beat up a little bit early in the season by Indy and by Seattle. But you guys can be going into that game 7-2. I mean, what could be a pivotal game for playoff time?
Sure. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if that is going to be a defining moment. I'd love to, just go ahead and go in there and play a tough game, come out win or lose, whatever it may be. I'd like to see what we're made of, but at the same time, who the Niners are. They're the team that's going to go, they're going to win 2-3 in a row, and they're going to lose one. They're going to win 2-3 in a row and lose one. And they're going to end up 12-4 every year around that number, 11-5, 13-3. And they'll just go into the playoffs and they'll get set and primed at that point. I'm not too concerned with regular season now. Now that we've gotten over this little mini hurdle of tough schedule early on, I think if we, just go ahead and win the games we're supposed to, we're going to be right in that hunt, playing for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And I think we're going to be right where we need to be to finish things up.
And then get dropped in the playoffs.
Wrong again. Hey, have you changed your tone at all? I know.
So the Raiders dropped a big game at Kansas City, and when you look at the score, wasn't really indicative of the game. I mean, in the first half, it looked like the Raiders were really in control of that game, playing better in all 3 phases. My gunner, Tywan Jones, keeping that top-rated return game to nothing, making Alex Smith play like the average quarterback that he is.
Kind of a step back for Terrell Pryor in this game.
Yeah.
But like you said, I was sitting there in the end of the first quarter going, man, should I have gone out on the limb with Mario and picked the Raiders to win this game? Because they were looking like in control of the game. What happened to turn things around?
We're playing with the second string offensive line.
Injuries hurt.
Okay, injuries hurt. Wisniewski was out. We've been playing without our left tackle all season long. Our right tackle was out. So we were playing with second string players. Now when your second string center goes in and you put in Khalif Barnes Mike Brizzell that has never played a snap in the NFL as a center, and then you're putting in a third string right tackle, the line just started falling apart. At that point, I remember times in this third quarter, I'm watching the game and I'm just thinking, wow, when is this going to fall apart? Because you could see it, you could just see it unfolding.
Yeah.
The heat was coming, 10 sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a patchwork offensive line that had injuries within the game. So you were patching up a patchwork offensive line.
3rd and 48 at one point, I believe.
Yeah, 3rd and 48. That's unheard of. It's about that time of the season. The Raiders are going into a bye, right? So you're going to look at them, and here's the bad and the good. The bad.
Okay.
Horrible O-line play. Like I said, we're putting in second stringers, third stringers, and those are our starters, right? Every NFL team has to deal with it.
Yep.
But everybody knows, look at the Giants. You get injuries, you go 0-6 real fast.
No question. It's the NFL.
Yeah, backup centers, backup tackles, backup left tackles. No receiver is really stepping out. Denarius Moore has had some pretty good games as of late, but as of now, nobody's averaging more than 4 catches a game.
Wow.
Your leading rusher, Terrell Pryor. I love Terrell Pryor, and the guy can move.
But if your quarterback's the leading rusher on your team,
That's not good.
it's not good.
And even though we had the fast start on defense and we're putting some pressure on the quarterbacks, we're not closing. 2.5 sacks a game. Just over 2.5 sacks a game.
Yep.
That's just not going to get it done. It's going to average out to about 46 sacks in the
The defense
season.
is playing good, but you got to have a few more sacks, get to the quarterback. Even just knockdowns, pass, rushes, getting him to scramble.
They're doing that. And Houston's providing most of that pressure. The rest of it is coming from blitzes, but we need that other guy to complement Houston and just bring the heat.
Yep.
The good, Pryor. I mean, he has what looks like the makings of a franchise quarterback. I'd like to see the season play out, but it looks like we may be able to build on him.
Yeah,
and really put a good team around him. We are averaging 129 yards a game, rushing. Of course, about 40-something of that is from Pryor alone. We have a slight edge in time possession. These games, the Raiders, unlike other than past years, especially in the Carson Palmer area, they're putting together long, sustained drives. And so they have the slight edge in time possession in the season on average. And the turnover ratio is 0, which is why they're not winning all these games that they're in, because you want to be positive, but it's also why they're in the games
that they're in.
That they're not in a negative. And so, honestly, I'm going to go on a limb here. And I'm going to say we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at home after the bye.
Okay.
We have the Philadelphia Eagles at home.
Okay.
Then we go to New York and Houston. And I think that the Raiders can go on a 4-game win streak there.
Whew. That is going out on a limb, but yes, that's a possibility. 4 winnable games.
And then we play the Titans.
I would be more comfortable with 3-1.
We play the Titans.
But yes, okay.
We play the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And then we play the Jets at the Jets. Then we come home to Kansas City, which I think we will split Kansas City this year. We have the Chargers and the Broncos. Realistically, I think the Raiders have the potential to pull out 5 to 8 wins.
At the end of the year.
I think they can go on a good little run, pull out 5 to 8 wins, where they'll finish the season anywhere between 7-9 and 10-6.
I don't think that's too far-fetched. However, I would be leaning toward a 7-9, 8-8. But coming into the season, would you not take that and say, as long as the football looked clean, which it's
coming into the
so
season,
far?
Coming into the season, they were supposed to be the worst team in the NFL.
Sure.
Sans
4 to 6 games.
We had 9 new players on starters on defense this week. In the past couple of weeks, with Trayvon Branchout, that's 10 new starters on defense, and these guys are playing some good defense. They held the Chiefs to about 240 yards, and Jamal Charles alone counted for like 129 of it, both rushing and receiving. and we kept Alex Smith to a paltry 128 yards throwing, the defense is playing good football.
You just got to put it all together.
We need that offensive line.
You need the offensive line. Absolutely. And that's enough Raider talk already anyway. Let's go ahead and get into this week.
Kick it!